You know, I love hunting coyotes, and the deal I have with a lot of the ranchers that I hunt on is we want you to thin out some coyotes. It's usually because they're having problems with cattle or sheep or some other form of livestock. In those situations, the coyotes have become a pest and they need to be thinned down. My point there, because coyotes are a pest in a lot of the areas that I hunt them, I'll take shots at coyotes that I probably wouldn't take on another animal like a deer or an elk. But I will tell you that shooting coyotes and shooting them on the run will make you a lot better shot when the time counts if you're hunting something else. Now, a running shot is certainly not the most optimal shot. I prefer a stopped animal, but I will tell you this, I've shot so many coyotes over the years that I've become super comfortable taking a moving, whether that's a fast walk, trotting, or even a running coyote, because I try to adjust on the fly to every different situation.
Him on the run.
A lot of people tend to panic. I've been with people coyote hunting before when a coyote took off and they just start shooting without really aiming, without looking at the coyote in the scope, contemplating where they need to hold, figuring out how fast the coyote's running, approximately how far he is, and what caliber they're shooting, and how much they need to lead that coyote, and also following through. It sounds simple. Coyote takes off running, you pull out and you just shoot at him. But there's actually a lot to it. That includes proper trigger control, follow through, and having a solid rest. I can't shoot a running coyote offhand very well at all, because then I'm worried about up and down movement, left and right, diagonal. I've got all kinds of issues. Plus, I'm trying to think about my lead. That's why I like to use a solid rest. To me, a solid rest is either a bipod or a tripod. And if you've watched the show very much, you'll see that almost 90% of the time, I go with a bogpod tripod. It's more of a stable platform, and it allows me to pivot and swing my rifle, so I've got a flat plane to swing through. It just takes out one other thing I have to think about when I'm shooting at a running coyote. I think the first step to being comfortable with shooting a running animal is a lot of shooting. I spend a lot of time on the range. My wife shoots, my kids shoot, I shoot. We spend a lot of time plinking and playing around shooting steel plates. Paper is great, but I like kind of a reactive target. I love shooting water bottles because I get to watch them explode. I like shooting water bottles at different yardages for a couple reasons. One, I get to watch them explode. I can check my gun zero, but the other thing is I can kind of gap how long it takes my bullet to get those distances covered. So when I'm practicing, whether it's on water bottles or steel plates, I'm constantly putting information into my old computer here. What I'm doing is I'm going, okay, from when I pulled the trigger, it took that long for that water bottle to explode at 200 yards, or 400 yards, or 600 yards. Same thing with shooting steel plates. When I shoot a steel plate, I'm not listening for the report, because in that case, the bullet had to hit the plate and then sound had to travel back to me. I'm watching through my scope to see how long it took for that plate to bounce, for it to move. Because then when I'm shooting at 400, 500, 600 yards, I have a feel for how long it's gonna take that bullet to travel that distance. A lot of shooting running shots is really kind of an instinct. It's from shooting your gun a lot, watching targets explode, and previous experience with it. So that really is a lot of the feel. Just like when I talk to a shotgun shooter, let's say, that's super good at shooting birds or shooting clay targets. If I said to them, exactly how far are you leading that bird? Most of them look at me and go, I have no idea. I've just shot my shotgun a lot, and I throw through and I lead it, and I'm not sure exactly how far. Well, instinct is a lot of the way I shoot running coyotes. Let me break it down even further. If a coyote's close, and I consider close 100 yards and in, I know just by sound how long it's gonna take my bullet to travel that distance. Here's the key though. To make this system work, kind of the instinct way that I'm shooting, you have to shoot the same round all the time. So I shoot a Hornady 53 grain Super Performance VMAX bullet. That's what works for me, and that's what I'm used to. I know how long it takes for that bullet to travel. My mind does. So when I'm shooting at a target close, I know the delay time. So I know, boy, that coyote's really striping out. I need to swing right on the point of his shoulder. Or that dog's only trotting. I can put it just in front of where I want to shoot, swing through, and I should drop that coyote. If it sounds weird, it's not. If you go out to the range and start playing with steel plates or water bottles, you'll start seeing exactly what I mean. Let's say I shoot at a running coyote that's 200 or 300 yards out. I already have a pretty good idea of where he's at because I use my rangefinder when I sit down every time. So if the coyote maybe is by this certain sage bush or by this tree, in my mind I can go, okay, he's about 200 yards. Then when the coyote takes off, just by watching the coyote and how fast he's running, I have a good idea of how long it's going to take my bullet to travel that 200 yards. So in that case, I may put out even a 4 to 6 foot lead in some cases as I'm swinging past and touching the trigger off. Every single situation's different, so there's not an exact science. You can't say, oh, if it's 100 yards, you shoot this much ahead of it, because every coyote's running differently. A smaller coyote has a smaller stride, a larger coyote has a longer stride, maybe faster, but a lot of it's feel. You know, shooting a smaller caliber, like a .223, so I can keep the animal in the scope while I'm shooting, helps me out a bunch, because I can also adjust on the fly. Let's say I've got a coyote running 100 yards out, I shoot, and for some reason, my computer up here has told me that I need to hold right at his shoulder, and I shoot behind him. Well, then I can just adjust because I see where the bullet hit, swing forward a little more in my next shot, and roll that dog. So I'm constantly trying to take what I've learned at the range and apply it in a hunting situation. But a lot of that goes back to spending a lot of time shooting. Do I make mistakes? Heck yes, all the time. Do I try and follow up and correct those mistakes by making a good shot afterwards? You're darn right I do.
That was crazy. That was ridiculous.
You know, again, running shots really boils down to practice, having a good trigger, and range time. Next time you go to the range, if you want to be more efficient at running shots, try shooting as fast as you can and as accurately as you can. It'll help you out when you get that situation in the field. Doesn't matter whether it's a bolt gun or an AR, I try and back up a shot as fast as I can so I'm ready when that shot presents itself in the field. You know, probably one of the biggest things with shooting running coyotes that you have to look out for is safety. Always know your background, always know your backstop. Make sure that if a coyote changes positions, because when I set up, I'm usually expecting a shot in this direction. When a coyote takes off running, I may be shooting to my side or even quartering away from me. Make sure you know what's around you so you're always safe. You know, running shots aren't all tough, and a lot of them, when you make them, will make you look like you're a pretty darn good shot, even if it's a relatively easy running shot. The easy running shots to me are the ones that are running straight at you or straight away from you. Those don't require any lead, but they do require you to still keep a great sight picture and react with that coyote as he's moving. If they're running straight at me, I hold right in the center of the chest, and I may even time its jumps as it's coming in. Same thing with a coyote running away. Those are your two easiest running shots. Slightly quartering away is another great running shot with super high success because you don't have to lead the coyote as much. The biggest mistake I see predator hunters make when they attempt a running shot is trying to rush it. You're better off giving yourself another second, even if that coyote's going to get a little further out, and make sure you have a good sight picture before you touch it off instead of ripping one when you're not really ready. Other running shots are pretty dang easy. When a coyote comes loping in, especially when they're only 20 to 30 yards away, well, you don't have to lead those very much. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of my running shots, and I hope you have more luck next time you go out in the field after coyotes.